Texas, our insulation is important in the roof because our heat comes from that Texas sun that's going to bake down on top of us, and so that's where our insulation is the most important. The biggest boon to our lessening of electricity bills and our utility bills was radiant barrier decking, and I hope you all know what that is. It looks like tin foil in the roof. I think we'll go back to, I think I have, Nance, can you flip over one? Maybe not, maybe later. But anyway, when you pull, and that's another thing I tell my clients, when you go in the house and I want you to count the return air vents, I want you to pull that attic door down, and I want you to climb up there, and I want you to look and see if that sheathing underneath that roof looks like tin foil. It better be there. Most builders today are doing it, and they only started about 7 or 8 years ago. The two most important things for energy efficiency in our houses today versus 10 years ago are radiant barrier and vinyl windows. I didn't realize vinyl windows made such a difference, but they do. 30% of the reduction of our energy bills are vinyl windows. Another, like 60% is radiant barrier. And because most homes today, if they have radiant barrier and vinyl windows, will have approximately 60% less cost in their utility bills. I show my clients when I'm out on location, and I take out a photo of a house that was built by Huntington Homes, which is part of the Highland Company, that was built 18 years ago. It's 4,200 square feet. It has 10 SEER air conditionings, 2 of those have been replaced. It has no low E glass. It has no radiant barrier. It has no vinyl windows. It's a beautiful home, and but the electricity bill for 4,200 square feet in the summertime in Dallas, Texas is $1,350 a month, most summers. That same home, built by Huntington 3 years ago, that has radiant barrier, it has low E windows, it has, vinyl windows. Guess what the difference? Guess what that is for a 4,800 square foot home, and I tracked these for 2 summers. Their highest electricity bill was $370. Has 600 square feet more than the other one. So what I've done is I'll show these pictures of these 2 houses to real estate agents in the crowd, and I'll say, which house are you going to recommend to your client before I go into all this? And they'll say, well, that home over here you can sell, it has beautiful trees, mature landscaping, and this new home, you're going to have to add all that. I go, yeah, that's true. It probably has blinds, probably has mature landscaping, but you tell them that their electricity bill is going to be almost $1,000 a month more for 600 square foot less. Have you going to tell your clients that? Because I bet they'd be real interested to know that. You're not going to be able to tell them if you don't know it. The reason they use 2x6 construction up north is because they can put 15 inches. They call it, the R factor is 15 in a 2x6. For our 2x4s, we can only use 13. The R factor is a 13. So what happens when I go in a lot of homes and I hear somebody from up north going in and they'll say, guys, I really, I'm from up north and I want I want my ratings to be R15 in the walls. And I hear realtors go, oh, okay, I'll tell them we need that. Well, it's not going to fit, ladies and gentlemen. It's the same thing when we looked at the floor joists a while ago. I hear realtors all the time tell somebody they go in attic space and we'll talk about floor joists and you're spacing between a floor joist and a ceiling joist. Our floor joists are closer together. And if you have an attic space where they're not going to have weight and you're not going to have people walking on it, it's a lot less expensive for the builder. So the ceiling joists are spaced further apart. What that means is you can't put heavy weight on it. You could walk on it if you walk on the rafters, and you can put a little bit of stuff there. But those ceiling joists are not made for you to close in an attic. So guess what? If you tell somebody, oh, we've got this great room upstairs you can add on to it, no, you can't. They can fall through, they're going to put a treadmill up there to store it. It's going to end up in the living room downstairs. You need to know that. So if you're building a house and the builder has this extra room up there and your client says, hey, I want to add on to that later, what do? You tell them, okay, we need to get a price on the builder in this at the time we're building this house, we need him to put floor joists in that room so that you can add on to it later. It may cost $1,500, may cost $2,000, but it's a lot better than tearing all that out later and trying to redo it. This is just another way that you protect your buyer. Okay. 14C air conditioning is primarily, and this is wrong, this should be R13, sorry, typo error there. I get this going green, I get sick hearing that. You know, I want to throw up when somebody tells me, oh, we built a green house. What in the heck does that mean? It means nothing to most of us because it has been so diluted and so watered down. The concept was great. It no longer means anything. Energy Star means maybe you're getting a better house with Energy Star, maybe you're not. You need to find out what that means. You know, when I saw that builder was putting their studs on 24-inch centers, I went to that city and I checked the code, the building code there to see how that builder was getting by with that. And what happened was they had, in their codes, they put that the builders could do, they were required to do 18-inch centers, but it only specified first floors or one story. And that builder figured out that he could put those studs on 24-inch centers upstairs, and he was meeting city code, and the inspectors couldn't do anything about it because that was in city code. So I called my trustee purchasing department again, and I said, in a 3,000 square foot house, I'm assuming I have approximately 1,200 square feet upstairs. What is the difference in cost between putting your studs on 18-inch centers versus 24? And the cost was approximately $250. And for them saving $250, you're going to have drywall problems. So, you know, when you walk your house and it's in the framing stage, you need to check to make sure that all the studs are where they're supposed to be, you know, that they're in line, that they don't stick out because your walls. And even the best of builders, where you're generally going to see the biggest problem with walls being crooked or sticking out is when they have plumbing behind them. The guys don't quite do that. I saw something the other day that I've never seen before. I walked a house, and it was by Darling, and Darling's been taken over by Taylor Morrison, and I'm on their back right now because I think they've lowered their standards a little bit, and I'm used to walk their houses every 3 to 4 weeks. Now I'm walking their houses twice a week. And I go in, we're supposed to close this house that day, and they were behind, of course, and I go into the master bedroom, and I look up, and between the wall and the master bathroom and the wall between the bedroom and the bathroom, and I look up there, it's high ceilings, and there's this little cutout place, and it's got these beams that are kind of sticking out about 1/2 inch, and they're painted and everything. And I go downstairs, and I call the head of construction for Darling Homes. I got him out there. And I said, you're not going to believe this. When they put those beams through from the other room, they're supposed to shave those down, and then they're supposed to put the drywall over it. Well, the drywall guy gets there, and nobody shaved that down, so he just cuts out around it. Then the painter comes in, and the painter paints it. So I said, do y'all think this is a piece of artwork up there? What in the world are you thinking, you know? Oh, we'll fix it. Well, yeah, well then, of course, I'm really on them. So I'm checking everything. I found like 20 things wrong with that house. So when a major builder who normally does a pretty good job does that kind of stuff, what do you think they're doing if you're not checking them all the time? And it's not because they're bad guys, it's because 1/3 of our workforce left the industry when the market, you know, just took the big dive. And I understand a big portion of those guys went to Midland and they're working on oil rigs up there. Well, the oil industry's kind of cutting back a little bit, but we think it's going to bounce back. But those guys aren't coming back. So we have the guys that do know what they're doing in the building industry are trying to train novices that don't know what they're doing, and they're so overworked. I have a builder in one hot neighborhood in Dallas who's getting to work at 4 o'clock in the morning and staying there till 7 at night. But, you know, they make mistakes. You're the only protector that the consumer has. Okay. Huh? I have 10 minutes. Okay. I've just been given time. Okay. I'm going to see on your, you know, we talk about roofs, whether they're composition or they're tile or they're metal. And we'll talk about, okay, your low E glass. Make sure that you get vinyl on your windows, and you make sure you have your radiant barrier. I think we've covered our insulation enough. Okay, on that, I need a wish list. Please make sure y'all all pull one of those down or get one of those. I have it in my book, and you can also order one of my books online. I've published a book on what you need to know that carries everything from the start. I also teach classes, and I'm starting to do more classes on what you need to know. But use that line. Get proficient enough and tell your clients, you better be afraid to go without me and mean it. And if you do your job, they are. And I did 70% of my business last year was new home construction. And I will tell you, about 4 years ago was probably my best year with Highland Homes. And I don't know if y'all have bonuses here. Do the builders give y'all bonuses? With Highland Homes, my bonuses with that one builder were $150,000 that year. So why is that? It's because I sell new home construction. It's because I focus on that. And once you do it for a client and they find out you know more. Oh, I know one other thing I want to tell y'all today that I didn't realize until the other day. I was talking to some realtors. Y'all know that there are new home construction inspectors. They don't do anything but that. I could not believe how many realtors didn't know that. In today's market, with as busy as these builders are and as understaffed as they are, I really recommend that you try to get your buyers on board with that. Hire that guy up front so that he's out there from the time the form boards are set through the whole process. They usually charge, in Dallas, they charge us a couple $100 more than a regular inspection, and they make. I didn't know until I was walking with him one day, and I noticed with a Darling home that the windows, when they're framed, and they have the little holes right around the edge that fit into that frame, and I started noticing, hey, they're only putting holes in every third, I'm only putting nails in every third hole. So I happen to have a magnifying glass, which I carry with me because I've gotten kind of blind in my old age here. And there's a little seal on all the windows on all our new homes. And on that little seal, which is so tiny that I don't even care if you have good eyes, you can't read the thing. And it says that in order for the warranty to be effective for these windows, there must be a nail in every other hole. And I went through about 5 builders, and none of them had that. They all did every third, you know. And so I called all my builder buddies, and I said, guys, I'm going to be checking you from now on. And I know that American Legend now is putting them in every hole. And so, you know, sometimes we can make a difference. We make a difference to our clients, but sometimes we can make a difference in the industry. So get out there and do your job and learn what's going on under the floors and behind the walls. And yes, and I have a few minutes for questions. That's what I'm supposed to do.
We have a lot of inventory, so they're already up. Is there specific things you would look for in there?
That's what I'm talking about, is that you check, you know, a big deal is return air vents. Because when the builder does that, to put multiple return air vents in a 3,500 square foot home is going to cost the builder about $3,000. So you have a lot of guys that don't do it. And, you know, some builders will do it as an extra. And that was Toll Brothers I was talking about, who builds a good home structurally, but they charge you for everything. And they're the ones that my buyer wanted, this particular lot, this particular neighborhood, this particular school, and they were the only game in town. And so we contracted with them, but for 6,200 square feet, they were only putting 2 return air vents in that house, which is ridiculous. So, you know, you're going to have to upgrade. So you need to know that that's a real important factor. And I will tell you that I walked a house one day that was a spec home, and I went to the builder and I said, normally you put return air vents in your master and in your bedrooms, and I've noticed in this house, the master, you don't have one. I'm not going to let my client buy this house. So you have to have a chase. You know, the return air vent, the thing is the air comes out in the supply vent and it goes in there and it's got to suck it back up. So it needs area behind it. So they went, oh, I'm sure we have one there. And I said, no, you don't have one there. So I was out there about 2 days later looking at the neighborhood for my client, and I go in that house and there's the return air vent, the little grates right there in the wall. I thought, there was no chase back there. And I get down on my hands and knees and I look, and there's the wall behind it. There's no chase. They put the grate up there for my benefit. Doesn't count, guys. Don't get by with that. So that's what I was saying. The little tips that you can get your clients to look for are the front porch. When that builder doesn't do that, I give them hell about that, because that needs to be covered, because it ages that house faster than anything else. Does it have an 8-foot door? Now, if they're in a first-time home buyer price range or something, they may not do the 8-foot door package. But once you get over $300,000, I expect 8-foot doors in the house. That's another thing. It may cost them $3,000 for a nice-sized house with the 8-foot doors. It's okay if they don't have the solid core 8-foot doors upstairs, but I want them downstairs. I want those return air vents. I want radiant barrier. I want vinyl, because that it's important.
2004 forward, all new construction in Texas required double pane windows. So they were glass, I thought, not vinyl.
Well, it's the frame. It's that frame. Yeah,
Okay,
it's the frame is
fine.
vinyl. And you can tell because they've done them so well that you can't always tell unless you touch them.
Yeah.
And you go up and touch that metal window in the summer and it's hot. I mean, you don't want to put your hand on it. A vinyl window you feel is just room temperature. And so it doesn't conduct heat. But prior to 2004, they had to do double pane, but they didn't have to do low E glass. And I will tell you that I buy things from the design, well, IBB Design, even for Houston, decorates the Highland homes. And so a couple times a year they have big, sales of their model home furniture. And Nancy and I always go to those sales and get bargains and stuff. But I bought $3,500, $4,000 sofa for $300. Because they had it placed in front of a window that didn't have low E glass. But it's just a reminder that piece of furniture faded without the low E glass. If they'd had low E glass, that sofa would have remained red. So low E glass not only filters out part of the heat, it filters out the sun rays that protect the furnishings. So that's an added plus that the consumers are not always aware of. So low E glass. Now I will also tell you that until 3 years ago, you couldn't get an adequate post-construction radiant barrier. They had one, but it didn't work worth a flip. Now they do have an effective radiant barrier foam that they can go in and spray in the ceiling. It's not quite as great as the pre-construction sheathing that goes into the roof, but it's almost there. So it is worth it for you to tell your clients, figure that in, find you a supplier or a contractor that does radiant barrier post-construction, have that in your notebook of somebody to call and recommend it to your clients. It is one of the most important things they can do when they buy a pre-owned home. Because you're not going to go in and change out the windows to vinyl, probably. You're not going to go in and add the low E glass. Because I got a quote on doing low E glass and vinyl on my windows that was like $35,000. I'm not going to do that. But I can do the radiant barrier for $3,000. I am going to do that, and that's going to make the biggest difference and dent in my electricity bills. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Marian, obviously you've developed a lot of expertise about the construction process. How has that earned you new business? Are you promoting that fact that you are a construction specialist, or has it just been word of mouth? But how have you grown your business to 70% new construction?
Well, there are a couple of reasons. On-site people quite often will refer me if they have someone that, because I'm out there all the time. Mainly, and these two gentlemen that are with me today are my new technology superstars, and these guys have put together a new website for me that we're promoting my book, and we're starting to do the speaking engagements so that I can promote that. In the past, it's been by word of mouth from my past clients, because when I do a good job for them, they refer me to somebody else and they say, oh, for new construction, you better use her, because she knows.
Do you do seminars?
Yes, I'm starting to do seminars. I did 3-hour on-site training sessions for our realtors, and I do 100 agents at a time. And we take them on-site, and we work with a builder. We'll go ahead and put plywood down. If it's cold weather, we have heaters, but we have to run electricity to it. We get a tent, and we walk you through the form board stage and a slab stage. We take a subdivision where we've got construction going on, and then I'll walk you through the construction and show you the difference between a ceiling joist and a floor joist and what goes on in the construction process, so you know what you're looking at. And if you've ever gone and you see finger joints, you know what that is in your slabs. Well, if it's construction, somebody that's savvy from construction from up north, they see those finger joints and they go, oh, they're using those cheap pieces of lumber. I don't want that in my house. It's not cheap pieces of lumber. It costs about the same as a full-length board. The difference is, tell them it's like the difference between a willow tree, because that board's going to warp and it's going to move more easily, and these short pieces that are jointed together, they're going to stay stable. They don't move. So it's, it's only for vertical. You don't use the finger joints, obviously, on horizontal, but for your vertical construction, you use the finger joints. And I'll tell you one more little quick story. I went into one of my builders, and he's a good guy, but they had framing going into a study that had the long pieces of lumber, and it was just one board, and it had warped a little bit. So I called over to him, and I said, hey, Frank, we've got a little bit of a warp in this piece of lumber here. I want it taken out because my drywall may not lay straight. Oh, yeah, I'll take care of that. And I go back a couple days later, it's not done. So I call him again. He said, oh, Marian, I'm just so busy I didn't get to it, but I'll make sure I get that taken out. And I go back 3 days later, and the drywall's stacked up in the garage, and that thing is still there. So I go get my hammer out of my car, and I go knock it out. And they changed it then. I'm not telling you to necessarily do that, but they knew I did it, but nobody ever said anything to me. But it got done. So, anyway, that's what I do.
Marian, what tools do you carry with you? Because you mentioned
I've built houses now. I can build a house myself. I prefer to just sell them, but I can do it. And I renovate houses. I just renovated one. And that's another thing. If you tell a client that, okay, you can sell your house as is for $400,000. But if I go in here and I add granite and I add new flooring, and I have contractors that'll give us a better price on carpet. I can, Nancy and we've got good painters. We've got a granite guy that comes from Corsicana, and he drives into Dallas, and he's half the price of any of the contractors we found in Dallas. So we tell him, okay, I'm going to estimate this is if we spend $25,000, I can sell your house instead of for $400, I can sell it for $475. And I just did a house I renovated that the comps and where it was showed it would sell for around $400. I did right at $50,000, under $50,000 renovation. Changed out the flooring, did everything to that house, painted the cabinets. I can't stand oak, by the way, so I paint over the oak. And just my personal opinion, but and right now, the model homes and the new homes are going with a gray tone, where in the past we've used a beige tone, so we use a little bit more gray in our paint. We've got that gray tone, and we had that house, and it looks great, and I just sold it within 3 hours for $525. So by putting $50,000 in, they made a lot more money, $525 versus $400. Spend $50,000. That's at the top of the spectrum. But I've done $20,000 renovations where I bring them back $50,000 in return or $40,000 in return. Learn what things cost so that you can advise your clients. This is what it's going to sell as is, and this is what it's going to sell fixed up. And you can kind of look at your comps and figure out what that's going to be, even if you don't know a lot about construction. But if you find out, you get prices enough from painters and your slab guys, and get you a good carpet supplier. I have a guy that does it for apartments, and so obviously he's got better prices because he does huge volume. So I can get a really good grade of carpet for about half of what we're going to get at most contractors. Line those people up. It makes you a hero, and it also makes you sell more houses. This is all about, I do love what I do, and it's a lot of fun, but I do it for money, and so do you. So it's all about how much money can we make. So, anything else, ladies and gentlemen? Well, it's a pleasure being here today, and I hope you go out and sell a new home. So, thanks for having me.
Thank you. So if I may, just before everybody molds, Marian came down and is doing this for us at her expense, and she brought a whole team.
You can send me referrals when you have people come into Dallas. You know, our team will take care of them, and we'd love to help you, and we'll pay you referral fees. So,
What part of Dallas do you cover?
all of it. All the way to the edge of Houston. Okay. So please send us your referrals. We'd love it. Thank you.